This is a 5-episode series titled, Can Virtue Really Save Our Ass? I guess this really depends on who's defining it. I have always found it insightful to explore the polar opposites of any subject of interest. It gives you perspective and clarity. You know, if virtue has a south pole, it would certainly be labeled wickedness. Because in the bigger picture, wickedness is pretty much like a sailboat with a broken rudder. You know, it's a stranded life unto itself in a way, by itself. It has no real destination, no port of entry. The state of wickedness is really parasitical in nature. Nothing is attracted to it, but yet is attracted to everything that it feeds on. So if I was to elaborate on the North Pole of virtue, I'm not going to make the mistake of using the word good, because it's way too vague. You know, the meaning of good and bad is totally relative to an individual's perspective, and that's usually always a dead end. So if I'm going to stay on point, I would say virtue has value. It certainly has value in more ways than one. It's actually never been so undervalued, and really needs to be better understood to be appreciated. Its true potential, anyway. Yes, friendliness is the first elemental of virtue. It's a foundational keystone that connects all life, keeping all life unified and coherent. You know, it's the counterpart of chaos. And chaos is experienced as pain and suffering in our world. The virtue of friendliness, well, it protects life from getting totally divided and conquered. It also supports better coherence in communication and connecting to others. Friendliness also opens the door for opportunity, creating new possibilities. It certainly does. It's the keystone for building harmony and creating true prosperity, such as perfect health, for an example. Because good health means the body is in harmony. Disease and harmony are like polar opposites. They cannot coexist together, obviously. Well, you get the point. This is just the tip of the iceberg, because remember, we're talking about a fundamental elemental here. Everything is built on it. Everything is built on friendliness. So that's why I'm labeling it the first elemental. Friendliness comes first because we have to open ourselves up to something bigger than who we currently are and connect to something larger to what we identify ourselves to be. Buddhists have a great analogy to the blooming lotus. It's a nice picture, as you can see, but it's so much more than this. Real friendliness begins opening a life up for opportunity, shaping the events to come to fit together better, which expands my point on prosperity, really. True prosperity is the feeling of, well, it's the feeling of affluence, abundance, and happiness that comes with it alongside. It's sort of like a bonus in a way. It's not limited to acquiring assets and monetary wealth. This is just a shadow of what we know it to be. I want to be clear on this point. I'm referring to the true feeling and the living feeling of prosperity. This is the signature trademark of reaching out with love, helping others, supporting new, stronger relationships, which is really great. But what is greater, if you take notice, is a better you in the making. Because you and your soul, well, this may start out as a growing relationship, but it does mature into everything that we love in life. Our purpose of being, you might say. And I'm calling it the X factor component. A true game changer in personal development. The virtue of friendliness can be developed. It can be practiced. and integrated in life in a number of ways. For example, starting with something simple like replacing social media with face-to-face contact with other people in real time as much as possible. Another example would be working with people with diverse backgrounds and culture. Individuals that have traveled internationally a lot can appreciate this point. It adds a lot of value to your perspective. And at the end of the day, it's always about perspective, which determines if we really have problems or solutions. The greatest part of this, I call it a self-therapy practice in the social arts, is the activation of what I'm calling the X factor component. It's a natural universal phenomenon in life. And I'm just not talking about good talent in music here. The experience of reaching out, connecting ourselves is much more because it's our nature to connect with everything. To deny it is to deny your own nature, really. Humanity that is connected in this way is really like a bee colony, where each individual finds their very best way to serve their family, their country, their community. It's this sense of purpose that everyone is missing these days, I believe. The moment you connect, you just stimulated the X factor for everyone. And that vibrates out through the whole creation on a quantum level as a quantum wave. And this creates a secondary wave and yet another one. It's like a cannonball run into the lake. Every fish, frog, and slimy worm there is moved by it. That's the real X factor that I'm talking about. Now, this is a general heads up on the subject because I know you got to experience it to understand it fully. It's the nature of learning. And my best guess is that many of us today have already started to feel it and just haven't quite given it any attention or put words to it. Well, I guess I'm here to put words to it for you. And the best part, I'm not here to sell you anything or create views or likes. In episode 2 of this mini-series, we'll talk more on how this quantum effect influences individuals and society in general in a very positive way. Until then, everyone, I'll see you in the next episode.